Afternoon, folks. Nice quick one today. Well, not quick one. There's a few stories, but yeah, trying to keep these a little bit shorter, so I'm not taking up too much of your day, and I'm not losing my voice halfway through them. If you like what I do, please follow the channel, like, subscribe, do all that fun stuff that helps me in the algorithm, and go and have some love for Composite Games too. They do a lot for the channel and make sure that I can get models and stuff to finish off the Astral Blade, and I can give you some prizes. Use the promo code Northern Exile in the doobly-doo down below to get yourself 10%, well, an extra 5% off at discount. You already get 20% off of most of the stuff in the store, so that adds up to around half the 50% GW staff discount, which is 25%. You can get 25% off at discount at checkout if you use the promo code Northern Exile down below. So speaking of prizes and things, we're going to have a prize draw. I've decided the date now is going to be, I will draw the prize draw probably on a live stream on the 28th of August. So you have just over 2 weeks to sign up to the Patreon at any level at all, doesn't matter which level you are, and or become a member of the channel, and you'll be automatically entered into that prize draw where you have 2 chances to win £50 worth of free models from Composite Games. They don't ship anywhere in the world, but I do, so I don't care where you are, you will get your prize. If you are somewhere in the world, like US or Australia, I will get your prize to you. So, as a little thank you for helping me out. So, here we go. Let's do some more Hobby Nightmares, shall we? By the way, it's the end of the week, so we're all a bit tired. It's very hot here in the UK at the moment. Extremely hot, to the point where, well, it's just hot. Do you know what? People in the UK, they tend to, like, over-dramatize how hot it gets sometimes. It's 30 degrees out there at the moment, which, you know, for the UK, especially the north, is extremely hot. But at the same time, I just don't see... I just don't... Listen, unbearably... This is not unbearably hot. Death Valley is unbearably hot, right? The surface of Venus is unbearably hot. Liverpool is a bit warm, basically, you know. Stop being so melodramatic. Jesus Christ. Whatever happened to the British stiff upper lip, get on with it sort of a thing. Anyway. Ben is our first subscriber to send me a message today with a nice Hobby Nightmare attached to it. Ben says, "Hey Exile." Hello Ben. He says, "This is a story from long, long ago. 1997 to be exact. I've been gaming since I picked up the first boxed basic Dungeons & Dragons box when I was 12 in 1983. Yes, I've been playing for a while. My story is about a group of us who'd been friends since middle and high school. We were now in our 20s and many of us were married with careers. We all lived in the same city and decided to start a D&D campaign using 2nd edition Advanced Dungeons & Dragons rules. Meet John. He was a tight gaming buddy of mine from high school. He was always a bit of a power gamer even back then, but he was generally fun to play with. He was the guy who first introduced me to the existence of Warhammer with Fantasy and Rogue Trader. By his mid-20s, John had developed into a very, very, very competitive person. For example, when I took the plunge into Warhammer with Warhammer Fantasy 5th edition, I was in that phase where I didn't know what I was doing, but loved every minute of it. Normally, most people would welcome a new hobbyist into the fold with small games, fluffy fun lists, and would make the games more about learning the rules rather than being super competitive. Not John. He had the meta army at the time, Skaven, and would run min-maxed units that just rolled over me like I was a speed bump. His view was, if the oven's too hot, get out of the kitchen. Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be completely honest with you, like guys like this, I've said it in so many different videos, but they're not ruining the hobby because it's part of the hobby, right? Guys like this are just there, they're like barometers, you know what I mean? But the whole attitude of get good, scrub, and, you know, seeing things like that, you know, if it's too hot, get out of the kitchen. Dude, you're not a fighter pilot, alright? You're some no-mark idiot who's rolling dice and playing with toy soldiers, right? You're not on Top Gun. You can forget it. You're okay. You're just a normal guy, okay? You're not... I mean, come on. Everyone's here to have fun at the end of the day. You know, it's not... And again, I've known some wildly competitive players, but they know when to turn it on and when to turn it off. Do you know what I mean? So that, yeah, there'll be some times where they really go for the jugular and they really try and like go out all out to get a win and things like that. But there are times when they read the room. And they say, okay, yeah, I'm playing against the guy who's just starting out and he's really into the lore of Horus Heresy or whatever. Alright, I'm going to play a nice fluffy list against him so we can have a good time as well. And I'll still try and win, you know. Because it's more of a challenge for that person like that to win a game that's really fluffy than it is for them to win a game where they've got a meta list that just rolls everybody over. I'll be honest with you, these aren't my favourite kind of people. And if I play against somebody like this, I generally just back away and go, you know what, I'm good, man, thanks. You know, I'll call it early. Like, man, I'm not enjoying this, so... Even if I'm winning, if everything that he's doing is just like, he's getting really annoyed with his own army because his meta list isn't working, which has happened in the past, because sometimes the dice gods just piss all over you, especially if you're being a douche, and they start getting really annoyed. I'm like, look, mate, you brought a meta list. You know, this is karma, but you're getting really annoyed, so I'm done. Like, I'm just gonna go play somebody else because this is not fun for me at all. You know, it's not happened very often at all. Say like 1 in 10 of the games I play end up like that. But in terms of ratios, that's still quite a high ratio for for a hobby. You know what I mean? But anyway, normally, okay. So yeah, he said if the oven's too hot, get out the kitchen. Basically, to him, being super competitive at everything was the only way to go through life. He did not like to lose games and would become very ill-tempered and angry when he lost. Yeah, go figure. Back to our campaign. I ran a few sessions, and the players seemed to have a really good time. It's fun for all, and they want to continue. After a few months, we wrapped up my plotline. That's when I said I'd like a break from doing it, and would like to play for a change. No problem. John volunteered to run us through a story of his creation. Oh god, here we go. Here we go. Do you know what? Most of these people, they write stories kind of like Dark Souls. By the way, I've fully come around to Elden Ring. I've taken a break from it because I was grinding for a little bit. But I've taken a break and I've gone away from it when I finish my grind, and I'll come back to it probably next week. But I'm really enjoying that game right now. It's really, really, really cool. Really enjoying it. Really fun. Not the best game of all time. Shut up. Shut up. Like, if you're the kind of person who says shit like that, just shut your mouth. Get in and see. Right? It's not the best game of all time. Of course it has faults. Of course it has flaws. It's a Souls game. They all have the same fucking flaws and things wrong with them because they never fix them. Because idiots like us keep buying them. Mostly because we want everyone to know how fucking try-hard we are. And the reason why the story in these games is so haphazard and all over the place, and like you need to go into the lore to read it, and even then it's up to interpretation, is because people who metagame and people who create games like Dark Souls don't have imaginations to make good stories. They don't. They just don't. Right? They can't make an interlocking narrative in a game like that. They just can't. They can make a really good game, but they have no idea how to write a story because they don't have these are all... You all know these nerds. You all know these physicist, mathematician nerds who cannot... I met one guy who could do it, and his name was Tom, right? And, funnily enough, we don't talk that much anymore because our lives went in separate directions, but, like, he was a really on-the-ball, smart guy. But he was open, he loved storytelling. You know, he was the only one that I knew was a nerd who was really good at sums, you know an actual stereotypical, logical nerd. But he was also extremely good at doing his stories and making sure that they were good and he was getting them across that well, right? Let me just do 1 second. Not one thing, it's your mother. Right, so, sorry, when your mother calls, you've got to get in there straight away because you never know when she's going to resurface again. So, yeah, so people like this, they can't really tell in-depth stories. That's something that I've noticed. But on the flip side, people like me, who are natural-born storytellers, right? And it doesn't mean we're good storytellers, right? It just means it's what we like to do. It's what we like to get out of our what we get our enjoyment out of in a creative manner. People like us, we're normally not that good at min-maxing and making ridiculously overpowered characters. You're the kind of person who's like me, when they play Elden Ring and they're enjoying it because it has more of a story than every single other Souls-like that we've ever seen, right? It has more of a story in it, so I'm enjoying the story and the setting. If you're like me, you go online and you look at guides on how to build a character who will just get you through the game because you want to see the story, right? Because we're not built that way, most of us, right? There's always an outlier. There's always people who are built that way, who are storytellers. But for the most part, we're wishy-washy storytellers. We're not min-maxers. And I've even noticed, right, when I get submissions for stories from people, for like the new setting and things like that, not the ones that I picked, the ones I haven't picked so far, they always tend to, the bad ones always tend to be from people who love Souls games, who min-max to the point, because I'm being honest, right? Their imagination isn't the strongest suit. It isn't. They overthink things. They over-logic things. They want everything to be this, to fit into a nice, neat little box, or it just messes with their mind, you know? And people like that can't tell stories. They just don't seem to be able to, right? And of course, there's the outlier every now and again. You know, you'll get somebody who's that way. I'm not saying everybody. I'm saying in general, people who are very analytical, people who are very logically minded, who like to min-max and like to get the most out of games like this, tend not to have a lot of imagination, right? You're not... When somebody says, I'm running a Skaven list that is this, and this, and all of it's really overpowered and meta because they've done all the calculations, they're not running that list because they like the lore of Skaven. They're running that list because it's the best army in the game, right? It's exactly what John's doing in this scenario. Anyway. John runs a session that can be best described as Warhammer Fantasy meets D&D. No bad thing, that's called Zweihander. Go and buy Zweihander, by the way, it's a very good game. It involves uncovering a Skaven invasion of the world. We find a bunch of green glass that turned out to be warpstone. We fight ill-tempered rats, you get the idea. The icing on the cake, and the thing that made me never game with John again, is the infamous Lizard King encounter. This was at the end of the second session. We encounter a Lizard King dressed in resplendent robes and a crown with his honor guard. The fight is ridiculously tough. We try our best, but party members go down one by one. Each time a party member dies, John flashes a smug grin. Yeah, again, this is why they can't tell the stories, dudes. They can't tell the stories. This guy's playing Dark Souls, and he's getting to be the game for a while, you know? Eventually, the Honor Guard and most of the party has been wiped out. It's just my character and the Lizard King. My character is already badly injured, and the Lizard King is poised for victory. This is when the light of heaven, the favour of the God Emperor, or whatever shines on me. For aficionados of 80s cinema, if you remember the last scene of The Last Dragon, where the hero suddenly summons his inner power, it's kind of like that. My dice suddenly breathe fire, making every saving throw and doing multiple critical hits against the Lizard King. John, however, rolls several critical fails, and for the life of him cannot kill me. He grows more and more visibly agitated with every passing round of combat. Miraculously, I get the Lizard King to down under 10 hit points. It looks likely that I will turn the tide and win the day. The party is cheering me on, and I am as excited as I can be. I'm having a lot of fun. Let me stop the story there. If this person turns into a good DM, right, the player wins this encounter, and the entire party start high-fiving, and he gets them all back up. You know, he saves them all and gets them all back up, right, and we have a really good time. Let's see how the story ends, shall we? So I've not read this one. Alright, this is a great gaming moment. It is my turn, and I am about to roll the killing blow. With gritted teeth, John announces that the Lizard King pulls a tassel in his robe, activating a special healing artifact that heals him to full health. There it is. There it is. There is nothing I can do about it. I cannot strike at his hand, even though it is my turn, nor can I make a check to stop him. The Lizard King proceeds to kill me easily. Total party wipe. We are all very angry at this point. No one believes that his Lizard King had a special get out of jail free card all along, but it was a Deus Ex Machina that John created on the fly so that he could win, quote unquote, the encounter. After this, all of us vowed to never game with John again. Good. We would all hang out and be friends, but an RPG is not something that pits the game master against the players. It's not something where if the players succeed, the GM somehow fails. Anyway, I've got another one for you later, but on some toxic people at the gaming table. Have a good one, Ben. Cheers, Ben. Right, so I will say this right now. Even when I'm GMing, sometimes if the players are acting stupid and doing ridiculously stupid shit, and not taking it seriously, I have been known to cheat on the fly as in metagame on the fly, and try and make things harder and make things more complex, make them take it seriously, right? My last resort is killing a character. I've only ever done it once, where we had a party in a sci-fi game that was not taking it very seriously at all, and I killed a character in a very horrific way, body horror, the lot, and he was very attached to this character. So it wasn't David, by the way, if you're listening. He did die in another comical way, but no, like it was a body horror kind of thing. I took his character away from him, and I made him a mockery of what he once was. Right now, this is all in setting. It wasn't like, out of left field. He was warned and warned and warned what could happen, and he died horrifically, right? Because he didn't listen to the warnings. And lo and behold, that party, when he created another character, took the entire setting a lot more seriously. We still had fun. We still had moments of brevity, because, that's what good stories do. They have different parts for different people. But they took it a lot more seriously. So I've only ever done it the once. Most people, you can just knock them down in combat once or twice, or take something away from them that they like. What I also love to do is give these people backstories and let them tell me who their family members are. If you fuck with me and my story, I'm gonna kill your family. Now, fuck with me and my story all you like, as long as it makes sense for your character. Because normally I'll set it up that way, where your character's rebelling against fate and shit like that. There's no problem. But if you're being a murder hobo, and you're being a douche, and the rest of the party aren't enjoying your game, and you've given me an in, I'm either killing your character, I'm maiming your character, or I'm maiming somebody who's close to you. Just to give you that little push to stop being a prick. But anyway, you did the right thing and not gaming with John anymore, because at the end of the day, there's only one way a guy like that's going to learn, and that's by not playing D&D when he wants to be honest with you. It turns out that it sounds to me like that guy was a Warhammer player anyway, who just wasn't that into D&D. So, JP says, "Hello, Mr. Exile. Hello. I just wanted to tell a story, and maybe the best game of 40k I've ever played. This should be good. Okay, the GW store near my place was starting up an organised play league. Really simple, 500 points, wiggle room for plus or minus a little, talk it out with your opponent, deploy on the board and kill the other guy. So I go in with a portion of my mostly finished purple jungle Eldar. Purple jungle Eldar, so they're not camouflaged at all, they're just standing in the brush. And sit around finishing up some detail work whilst waiting for a match, chatting with the guys and the really friendly staff members there. Very important to note, I play a Hail of Doom Shuriken spam list. Guardians and Dire Avengers to throw as many shots downfield as possible. Some Howling Banshees for Horde clear melee, and some Psychic support. It's very solid. Not a tournament list or anything, but it is optimised, and especially good in smaller games. A big guy comes in, looking very stereotypical neckbeard, lacks the smell though, and he asks for a game. Obviously, I accept. And we strike a really good rapport while we set up. Well, that's nice to know. He pulls out a Demons of Tzeentch army, in a similar state of almost finished, and it quickly becomes clear that there's a deep imbalance into these armies. It's not an issue with list building on his end, it's just that what we know about how balance is now. Craft Worlds beat Demons 7 out of 10 times, all else being equal. He's in a great mood, however. After the standard and customary admiring of each other's paint jobs, we get started. That's something that is very neglected these days, the customary admiring of each other's paint jobs. I don't see it enough. I don't see it enough in people's games. Whenever I'm playing a game of 40k with somebody, I will make a point to admire your army. Even if I don't quite like the look of it, I'll lie to you and say it looks really good. As long as you've painted it. If you've tried to paint it, I'm going to find something that I like about your army, and I'm going to try and make you feel good about it before the game starts. It's almost like a mental shaking of hands that wargamers do. No other hobby really does that because, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players and people like that, they don't really make their own stuff like we do, So it's very important that you always admire the other person's army and you give them some compliments. Don't give them fucking pointers on painting before you start the game, for God's sake. It's not about that. It's about admiring the other person's army and doing that mental handshake, the mental doff of the hat to this other person before you start playing. Be a gentleman at the end of the day, Not to bog you down in details, first couple... Thank you very much for that, by the way. Too many people do that. They give me blow-by-blow accounts like a fucking battle report. That's not what this is. Not to bog you down in details, the first couple of turns, we are both rolling really hot. His screamers make something like 34 plus invulnerable saves before finally taking the 6 wounds they need, and my banshees are just on fire. Still, slowly but steadily, he loses models and I lose less. We're still laughing and whooping the entire time. Sounds like a good game to me. The highlight of the game was when we realised that between him being like 3 points under and me being like 10 over, he had the space to summon 2 Brimstone Horrors, which promptly rolled an 11 to charge and died to Overwatch fire. It was the funniest thing ever. As I finished mopping units up, he resists to the last demon with a smile plastered on his face, literally laughing all the way. Every time anything interesting happened. I win, we shake hands and part ways as the store is getting ready to close up. And I realised just how happy it made me to have an opponent who was also having fun. It also made me think just how much I was a salty loser occasionally. And I kind of felt ashamed. Yeah, I've all been there, man. You always get that one wargamer who humbles you just by how nice they are. Do you know what I mean? My takeaways are this. Number 1. Being a good loser is an undervalued skill and hobby. We should strive to be like this dude and find our enjoyment no matter if you're playing the bottom tier faction or not. Number 2. The importance of picking your opponent well. It can make or break a game and the difference between a night of laughter and a nightmare story. Thanks a lot for taking the time to look at this. Have a great day. Yeah, there you go. Exactly. Advice that I've given in almost every video that we've ever done on the channel in terms of getting games of Warhammer in. Anyway, Natner is back with a few short stories from his time at GW as a manager. He says, "Hi North, thanks for the channel and for reading my tales. It takes a bit of catharsis to share these." That's good. Definitely had some negative emotions to sort out after leaving GW, but I will try to keep this less about whinging and more about silly stories. And shorter to help with your new format. Well, to be honest with you, man, if you send longer ones, I'm going to read them. I just read less stories. It's fine. You know, as long as we're under 30 minutes, we're all good. Okay, so story number 1. Whilst I was a red shirt at Wayne's store, we'll just forever call him that, there was this kid who was just excited about the hobby. He was the perfect customer, polite, energetic, and happy to buy models. I'll never forget he had this kind of high-pitched cartoon character voice and a big tuft of curly hair. He'd always tell me how excited he was to buy a battle lion for Warhammer Fantasy. I wasn't the most knowledgeable about fantasy, and with so many armies and units, I assumed it was just some high elf or whatever unit, until I'd never heard of. Weeks went by as this kid would come into play, buy, etc., always talking about how he was saving for his battle lion. One day, he popped round and exclaimed he finally had enough to buy the battle lion. Cool stuff, kid, go get it. I sat at the till waiting for him, and he handed me a large box. I looked down with a surprised eyebrow. So by the battle lion, did you mean battalion? Ooh, that's how you pronounce the word. I think I did an actual face palm. That's good. I like that one. The dad in me finds that very funny. That's really funny. Every kid says stupid shit. Do you know what I mean? Like, I remember tutoring this one lad who was 17, and as a typical 17-year-old, who was quite popular with the ladies, he would just talk absolute bollocks. And his dad was a bricklayer, but they were newly minted wealthy, so he had quite a lot of money in this big house. And his dad's proper scouse, and he's making a cup of tea, making me and him a cup of tea after the session. And he said, and I remember this guy Jake, he said something off the wall, and his dad, you can't see my face, but he just blows air out of his cheeks, shakes his head, and goes back to it. He's not smiling. He shakes his head, blows air out of his cheeks, and just starts stirring my cup of tea for me. And that is the most northern dad reaction to your son being a dickhead that's ever been. Just like, fucking hell. Just starts. It's great. I love northern people sometimes. Okay. My initial time as manager was the last few months at a mall store before we downsized and moved to a one-man operation a few blocks away. That one-man store had some great times and not so great, the saga of Tom being one. But I'll never forget the building owner, the guy who owned the actual shopping plaza we were in. He was basically a walking cliche. He wore a light a light blue tracksuit, which always, and I do mean always, was unzipped to show off a huge gold medallion and way too much chest hair. Every time he'd come in, he'd stop by the no smoking sign, light up and puff away as he talked to me. How goes the business, bro? Business good? Good, good. Well, you need something, you come by, yes? He was never super weird or mean, he was just odd. So in a way, he kind of fit right in with the rest of Games Workshop. Yeah, we had a security guard near our place. And big butch guy, massive fella. And he would come by the store, yeah, we check things out. Because normal people find Warhammer very interesting. I just don't, especially the older they get, when they grow out of the, it's for nerds phase. I've known so many, like, actual hot women from offices, like lawyers and shit, come by the store. And just be like, wow, this is so cool. And, like, this is really cool. Can you show me how this works? Because it is an interesting thing. So, yeah, we had this one security guard, and he would come round, and big butch, most manly man I've ever seen in my life. One day I couldn't switch my alarm off in the store. I tested it and couldn't switch it off. So he comes round and he switches it off, and I realised he has pink painted nails. Right? Pink painted nails. And this guy's 6'6", whatever, you know. I'm like, bloody hell, what's going on there, you know? And I'm thinking, I say to him, you know, did your daughter do that, you know? And he went, oh, yeah. But he looks kind of like bashful. He's like, yeah. And he leaves. Anyway, I'm talking to the other staff member when he comes back in the other day and said, oh, you never guessed, you know, Dave came in, he had these pink nails on. And the other staff member just looks at me like, you didn't say anything, did you? And I said, yeah, it's just funny that his daughter did it. And he goes, no, he's a cross-dresser, dude. I was like, shit. I was like, well, hopefully he doesn't cave my head in next time he comes around. But those are Hobby Nightmares for this Friday. I love you all a long time. Have a really good weekend. And as I've said before, every Games Workshop manager has hundreds of stories. So if you're a GW manager or a hobby store manager, send them in. Let me know, because I'd be really interested to read them out. I've got tons myself. I've got a catalogue of, like, you know, over 100, even either little snippets or big stories to go over of just shit that's happened over the years. Love you all a long time. Please go and check out Composite Games if you can, to give them some love for helping me out on the channel. And if you like what I do, Patreon's down below. Do all that fun stuff. Like the video, subscribe to the channel. Love you all. Have a wonderful weekend. You've had 5 videos this week. 1 per day. I'm going to try and do that again next week and every week thereafter if I can. And I'll let you know if I can't. But I love you. Have a good weekend. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, which doesn't leave much. See you later. Have a good one. Bye.